Robin, how long do we think this has been going on for the little kids? Obviously, it was COVID that brought that into everyone's living room and woke people up as the filth they're pouring on our kids. How long were they pouring that filth on our third graders before we woke up to it?
This has been percolating for decades. The dismantling started, I think, really in the early part of, like the 40s into 50s and 60s. And then there was a book written by Herbert Marcuse, who was part of the Frankfurt School, who really brought critical theory, which is the parent of critical race theory and also critical queer theory and all of the critical theories swirling around our children's head. He wrote a paper in the 70s that said, you know what, overt revolution's not really working for us. So it's time to go into the teaching institutions, to the universities, to the corporations, and start working that way in order to affect change. And that's really what they did. So there was a definite shift in the early 70s in which they went into academia. And then, so that was percolating for a while. And then the DOE, Department of Education, was formed in the late 70s. That gave it a kickstart. But really, when we trace back all of these ideologies, when they intensely came into the school system, was in the Obama administration. That is when a lot of them received the direct injection into the bloodstream of American education, and it really took off exponentially at that point. That's social emotional learning, critical race theory, comprehensive sexuality education, and even the issue of pornographic content in the libraries. From 2020, there were only 600 reported obscene books, and in 2021, 1,600. So it's just been going at an exponential pace, and parents are drinking from a fire hose trying to keep up. There's just so many things in the war for our children. There are many, many battlefronts. And so that graphic I showed you earlier, the columns that prop up the Marxist pedagogy, those are also really the battlefronts that parents must engage on to get informed and equipped so that they can advocate for their kid and defend them against all of this. Because as those pillars ideally start to crumble, and we see that happening a lot with gender ideology right now. The trans activists are really losing that fight, and that's how you start to crumble the whole thing. It's just by knocking out those pillars and being informed and aware and advocate for your child. And this is another graphic that we made. When people ask me, is gender ideology in my schools? And I created this graphic. I put over 60 hours of research into it. But from the international level down to the county level in Tennessee, these are all the entities that are directly targeting your child's school. So the answer is gender ideology in my child's classroom? 100% yes. It would be very statistically slim odds that it would not be.
Why the sex, gender stuff, as icky as all that is to talk about, but when it comes to kids, how does that help make them little communists?
Because it's destabilizing to the family. And, if you sexualize a child, then you're essentially destroying a family before it even starts. And you don't set the child up for success in life. And so in this past year, when you think about the war for our kids, and all the battlefronts that parents must worry about. And if you start listing out to the average parent, well, you got to know about critical race theory, social emotional learning, comprehensive sex ed, all generative curriculum, all of the things that parents just get a faraway look and they start to glaze over and they're ready to give up right then and there. So what we did as a chapter is we took each ideology and focused on it 1 month per ideology, so that we could just break it down into more digestible, bite-sized portions and present it to the parents so that then they can understand these issues. Because in order to advocate or fight back on an issue, you must understand it. So in March, we focused on the pornographic content in the libraries. And it turns out that, porn addiction is up amongst our youth. It is, when you put porn in front of a child in the library, it's really a gateway drug to a life of addiction to that kind of content. And this does not yield healthy relationships. And Marxism, so what does the Marxist worldview say? It's anti-family. It actually despises the family unit. How do you destroy the family? You sexualize the kids. That's just one way to do it.
You want to watch our special on George Washington? It's freaking awesome. Well, you can. All you have to do is become a First TV supporter. That gives you access to all of our specials on demand, and it's cake. All you have to go to is thefirsttv.com/support. Thefirsttv.com/support. Become a supporter. Enjoy learning about George Washington.